across Europe, when just 31,000 votes brought the independent candidate Alexander Van der Bellen to power as president of Austria, thus preventing the anti-immigrant Freedom Party's Norbert Hofer from becoming Europe's first far-right head of state since the war. The Freedom Party was founded after the war in the 1950s by former Nazis, and it's one of a rising trend of such nationalist parties trampling across Europe right now, fueled by anger mostly at the refugee crisis. Austria was one of the first to welcome refugees last summer, but now it's closed its borders. So as the backlash against mainstream politics continues, how did Alexander Van der Bellen win? He joined me for his first international interview from Vienna. From Vienna tonight. Can I start by asking you, how do you account, sir, for the last-minute surge that puts you over the top in this race?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I had only 21% of the votes at the end of April, and I had to get over 50%, as you know. I think there was a wave, a movement, especially of young people, but not only young people, beginning in the last 2 weeks or so, and in the last week before the election especially, that sort of brought me at the end to the victory against my opponent.
Mr. Van der Bellen, do you think people suddenly realized what was at stake? That these young people, as you say, and apparently a lot of women in the postal ballots, they just didn't want to see Mr. Hofer represent them as head of state?
Yes, that certainly was part of this movement, especially among young people. They didn't want to see Mr. Hofer in the president's office. But I also think that at the end, my pro-European stance was important.
How much of a mandate do you think you have? Because according to the figures, you won by 31,000 votes, which is not a landslide. And clearly this frustration with mainstream politics, this, I'm afraid, xenophobia, this anti-immigrant feeling that's not just abroad in Austria but around Europe, is here to stay. How do you deal with that?
Yes, it's here to stay, but I'm fairly optimistic that with time we will overcome these attitudes. I mean, take myself, for instance. In this modern kind of language, I have a migration background, and still I got the majority of Austrians behind me in this election. So it also helped that the refugee situation in Austria and in Europe sort of calmed down for the last 2 months, and it certainly helped, I think, that in the last 2 weeks before the election we got a new